James. What does this all mean? Like, why? No one is working out for this team. Shaden Sharp is working out for Portland. Guys are working out. They're just not working out for the Kings. Make this make sense.
Yeah, I wish I could make that part of it make sense. Because I still think it's like a missed opportunity. No matter what happens here, I still think it's a missed opportunity. I mean, like we've been on these calls with the top end prospects like nonstop, and no one even realized that the Kings were at some of these workouts. I know they were there, and I saw video of Jaden Ivey like doing his thing, and sitting right next to the court is Monty McNair and Vivek Ranadive, but it seems like there was not even a conversation afterwards. And some of these prospects, not only did they have conversations, but then they set up another private workout with the team, with some of the teams. I know Ivy, I believe he said OKC. He did a private workout at his gym, the gym that he's working at down in Southern California, like a couple of days later or the next day. But that's not exactly what we've been seeing from the Kings, actually. At this point, the only, top 15-ish player to come through Sacramento for an actual workout is Jeremy Sohan from Baylor, right? Wow. Or is that Gonzaga? Baylor, yeah. My brain is overwhelmed at this point. We know now that Keegan Murray came in and had dinner with Domantas Sabonis and De'Aaron Fox, but again, didn't work out. I just think it's really interesting. It's a different way to manage your draft stuff. I hope it works out for them. But again, at what point, like it's typical that you at least get to know who the players are. You at least have a little bit more understanding, so you have it in your database about who these guys are. And that's where it's kind of the missed opportunity.
So from what I'm hearing, Ham, you're of the belief this is a Kings decision, not the agents are keeping these guys from Sacramento.
I don't think like 10 different agents kept guys out of Sacramento. I mean, that's collusion. And I don't think that that's what we've had here. I do know like Dyson Daniels was supposed to come in last week and then decided against it at the last second. So, I mean, that is what it is. And of course, we've talked a little bit about Dyson Daniels being Dante DiVincenzo, and Dyson Daniels have the same, agent grouping and stuff like that. But to me, it's just very strange. And I get it. They went and they saw a bunch of these players and they worked out for a bunch of these players. But, this is my 13th draft that I've covered. I've never seen anything like this. Even when you couldn't get players, you still got players, in Sacramento. And that's just not the case.
James, I'm going to offer this advice to Monty McNair free of charge. Told Kenny this, told everybody this who was with us at the top of the show. I've had it.
Oh my.
I've had it with you.
Oh.
I've had it with Quentin Mayo. I've had it with Deuce and Mo and all these different trade proposals. I've had it with everybody.
Damn.
Draft Jaden Ivey. Simple. It's over. Draft Jaden Ivey. Do what you got to do in free agency. Do what you got to do when July 1st gets here. Draft Jaden Ivey. Let's keep it moving. I'm tired of it. Tired of all of this, James.
We're in a go big or go home situation, right? We're in a go big and go crazy, or just draft Jaden Ivey and be honest and real about who and what you are as a franchise and how far away you are from competing, and put yourself back on the 3-year track where, in 2 to 3 years, we'll know who Jaden Ivey is. And just like we knew who De'Aaron Fox was 3 years in, and start going from there. I mean, we're either do that or go bonkers, because if you go halfway here, you're just going to catch yourself in the middle for a long time. And you can see it. And if they can't, I think they can. I think that they can see it the same way that I see it. You have a choice here. You go back one move and pick up a really solid player, back 3 spots or 8 spots, pick up a really good player, Like that's where you're at. Either you do that or you draft Jaden Ivey, you tank for the 2023 draft, which is exceptional, and you play for that draft. I mean, that's where you either got to go big or go home.
Wait a minute. Let's back this up just a little bit here. If they keep, you're of the belief that the best course of action, if they draft Jaden Ivey or Keegan Murray or whoever it is, instead of making a trade, is to just tank for the next draft as well?
Yeah, because you're too far away. You don't have enough pieces. You know that, like, in most situations, unless you trade him now, you're not bringing back Harrison Barnes next year. Like this season, sure. The season after, no. He's an unrestricted free agent. Bringing him back is going to be nearly impossible if you're still not there. So, like, how do you do this? Either you got to go for it, or you have to accept who it is you are right now, and a team that wins 30 games and is in the top 4 of the NBA draft usually drafts and plans for the next draft, and then hopefully they get better in the coming years.
Okay. Well, 1 second, Damien. So if I'm of the belief, I think they're a lot closer than that, regardless if they made 0 moves. I think they're a lot closer. Obviously, they'll make some moves or whatever the case may be. But if I'm De'Aaron Fox and James Hammond is talking to me about this, just get me the hell out of here this summer. Like I'm not sitting around in tanking for a 2023 draft pick. There's going to be another 18-year-old kid. Like, I'm not winning here. Like, that's what you're telling me. I'm not winning here. So get me the hell out of here right now.
No, I mean, that's kind of like you're in a position where, like, again, it doesn't matter if they're drafting 1, 2, 3, or 4. Not one of those players is going to make this go from a 30 to a 45 win team, which is the only way that you can guarantee you're in the playoffs, is winning roughly 45 games. There's not a single player in this draft that can make you jump 15 wins. And you can say, well, if we put this piece together, or we didn't get to see enough of Sabonis and Fox, like, no. Like, be real. Where are you at? You're a 30-win team. So you have to, like, this team needs 3 or 4 pieces to become a playoff contender. And there are very few ways to get 3 or 4 pieces in one single offseason, unless you literally walk into the offseason with $70 million in cap space and you're a A-list market. That's the only way to do it. And even if you had all that, this is still a weird free agent crop. I don't even know if you could get the player that you wanted. Like, if you had $70 million, maybe you get like some weird Kyrie, Bradley Beal, both of them opt out of their contracts and decide to come to one team. But what I'm saying is, like, look, you're caught in the middle, and this team is always caught in the middle. This is the time to either build it out now or acknowledge who and what you were going to be and take a step back. And so that's where I'm at. I can see a lot of ways forward.
Where you're at is a horrible, horrible place to be.
And where am I? I'm like 240 games under 500, and that's my record. Like, over 12 years, 240 games under 500. No, I'm at a realistic place, man. That's like, yeah, like
James.
Yeah.
For the record, I do disagree with James. I think they're a little closer than James gives credit for. I do.
I think I simultaneously disagree with both of you. I think I'm somewhere a little bit more in the middle, where I just don't understand how you make this deal for Domantas Sabonis, and just that alone. And I get it; it's not enough. You have to be better in that regard. Just with that one deal right there, all of this talk about the best player, with all due respect to Tyrese Halliburton, the best player that De'Aaron Fox has ever played with, you have to be better immediately. The season, regardless of a John Collins trade, a Malcolm Brogdon trade, a Jaden Ivey draft pick, a Keegan Murray draft pick, a Paolo Banchero draft pick. The whole season hinges on whether De'Aaron Fox is going to average 18 points for the first 20 games or not. If De'Aaron Fox is the guy who ends the season to start the season, this team is in good shape. Regardless of however we work out this next couple of weeks, I think this team is in good shape. That's, to me, what we're worried about, these intangibles and these what ifs and these trade scenarios and these draft picks and ceilings and floors. Can the guy that you invested $160 some odd million in be a difference-making player from game 1 to game 82? That's what the team's playoff hopes hinge on, to me.
No, I get that, and I get that the pairing of Fox and Sabonis has a potential to be great. I do. I think that they can be absolutely spectacular together. But you can't walk in, like, we're acting like they can walk into this season with Trey Lyles and Chimezie Metu as their power forward combo, with Harrison Barnes on the final year of a deal and no backup small forward.
Work free agency. Well, there's more you can do without giving up that 4th pick, to me.
Well, yeah, but when has working free agency ever worked? I mean, again, like, what are they going to go out and sign? The Costa Kufis, Marco Bellinelli, Rajon Rondo?
No, but you could still do trades in free agency once the new league year gets underway.
I get you. What we're talking about is a dramatic facelift. And, like, as far as I can tell right now, you need between 2 and 3 starters, depending on whether Harrison Barnes is part of the future or not. Like, you need either 2 or 3 starters going forward. So, like, again, if Dante DiVincenzo might be one of those pieces, maybe. But, I don't think any of us think that the season is going to change with Dante DiVincenzo or again, bringing back Damian Jones, or like that. That's not going to change the outcome of this season. Like, you're in an arms race and you're way behind. Like, so I get it. Like, you want to draft the best player possible, and I totally agree with that. And Jaden Ivey, I think, again, in a normal situation, go ahead and draft him. But if your goal is to make the playoffs, that's not what that move is. Unfortunately, that move that can lead to the playoffs in 2 years, in 3 years, but that's not a move that moves the needle at all this year. He's going to take plenty of time to get going, and then again, it's not like you have a bunch of cap space. A mid-level exemption player has never changed the course of a franchise. So unless you think you're going to be able to get solid gold for Harrison Barnes, and look, you might be able to get something good. You might be able to make a move and go get a player like John Collins because Atlanta's cash strapped and wants to drop $100 million off their payroll for the next 4 years. That move moves the needle way more than any draft pick is going to in the next 2 years. So, yeah, we're in an interesting spot. Like, I really do think you gotta go big, and it's got to be more than one move. Like, moving back one spot and picking up a Sadiq Bey or a Jeremy Grant. I mean, that's nice, but that doesn't change that. Okay, maybe that gets you to 38 to 40 wins. Maybe. Now, where are you going to get the rest of the wins? And that's where this team is at. They've got to figure out how to get those wins.
Well, something's got to come from De'Aaron Fox and Domantas Sabonis. That's my only. Hell, you know what? Some of this has to come from Mike Brown too.
I agree. Let's just say best case scenario, and you get, I don't know, 45 points a night and 17 rebounds and 12 assists from the combo of Sabonis and Fox. Okay, where's the rest of it coming from? Like, nothing. This team needs to get to a point where they can write with pen what they're getting out of 5 positions, out of 5 of the rotational players. Not write with pencil, because that's
realistic. I don't think that's realistic.
Well, I think it's pretty
we can't
close.
Even write in pen what we get from Harrison Barnes.
No, I mean that's true.
I think if people not gonna like it, I think if you got Kyle Kuzma, you can write in pen what you're getting from him.
Kyle Kuzma still wants a parade for his 2020 Lakers championship.
And Kyle Kuzma's on a 1-year deal.
Yeah, you can't trade for him on the 1-year deal. You got
he's opting out. He ain't coming back.
You got to see if he is going to get an extension or not. If he doesn't go for an extension, then you can't trade for him. but that's a guy that's 15 points a game that you can pencil in. 15 points a game. You can do the same thing basically with Harrison, but now you got Kuzma, Barnes. You got 15 that you're penciling for both of these guys. That's 30. You got 20 that you got for Fox. You got 18 that you can pencil in for Sabonis. Those are guys that you can rely on those numbers night in and night out, and then see if you can develop a Davion or whatever. If you got Dante, what you got with him. Those are guys that you can pencil in and put in what they're going to give you nightly.
I think one of the problems the Kings have is that you see who the players are that they have, and you can say, okay, I think this is where I think you can get 25 and 8 out of Fox, or 25 and 7. I think you can get 18 and 12 and 6 out of Sabonis. And then normally you look at a group of young players on a team and you go, okay, in a best case scenario, what step will they take? Well, they really only have one young player. So we can't assume that Davion Mitchell is going to take such a huge leap that he changes the whole trajectory of the team. And outside of that, you don't really have that grouping of players that you go, okay, they might be able to come up and be something bigger than they are. And sort of the improvement stake that you're looking for from your team. And that's a little difficult. When you don't have a young core at all, you've got a medium core, then you can't expect some sort of that group of players to all of a sudden be something that they had never been before. Yeah. That's what you expect from 20-year-olds, from 19-year-olds, from 21-year-olds going to 23. But when everyone's 24, 25, you kind of know who they are. There should be some variance, and especially what you're talking about with De'Aaron Fox not being just checked out the first 20 games of the season. And we forget about the other 8 games or whatever it was that, where he took a hiatus in the middle of the season. He
was on strike.
Yeah, but we can see sort of the cap on a few of these players and what they can be. Okay, well, that's good enough for 12th, 11th in the West. That's not good enough even for the play-in.
The other thing about it, James and Damian, that this is just my thought and what we kind of get lost in when you talk about somebody like De'Aaron Fox. No, he shouldn't be averaging 17 points a game. He's better than that. But I think in an ideal situation, he's not averaging 25 points a night. He can, but I think the sweet spot for Fox, in my opinion, is 20, 21, 8 assists, and he's got good enough ball players around him, whether it's Sabonis or a draft pick or Collins, wherever, where they can fill up the slack where he doesn't have to average 25 a night. I think that's the key. We always talk about unlocking De'Aaron Fox. That's the key, having other people around him where he's not forced to put up 25 a night or they lose by 10.
Yeah, I agree with you. I'm looking around and I'm like, where's the rest of it? So, I mean, prime De'Aaron Fox should be able to be a difference maker for this team, but that only gets you so far. It's tough. I would like to tell you that Dante DiVincenzo he's not going to average 18 a game. If he goes back to his good year where he averaged close to 14 a game and then faded a little bit, that's kind of who you've got. Davion Mitchell can take a leap, but his leap is 14 to 15 points a game as sort of a cap. Mm-hmm. So again, I need to see where the rest of the pieces are coming from, because we looked at last season and I like Mo Harkless as a guy. On a team like this, he's not good enough to play the 3 for major minutes. And that's not because he's a bad player. It's that he's a defensive specialist. He's not good enough. You got to have players around him that are way better that can support him on the court at the same time. The Kings don't have those players. Get to the power forward position, it's a mess, So, yeah, I think there are holes all over this thing and future holes, in the Harrison Barnes situation. So, yeah, it's interesting, but this is a moment where you can really craft your future and put your stake to say, I built that team. That's a team that's my stamp. The rest of the roster is gone. I mean, it's very possible that this offseason we see the departure of Rashawn Holmes and Harrison Barnes. That would leave De'Aaron Fox as the only player left from when Monty McNair took over the team.
Wow.
Well, James,
season we could see the departure of Monty McNair. So hey, this is fun.
look, James, hold on, man. You got me shell shocked. I think you got everybody shell shocked with you.
Yeah, they're
a tank if they draft, bro. They don't have to tank. Like they could draft and trade for John Collins.
Put the fedora on. Be happy ham with the fedora on.
But okay, they can draft and go get John Collins, but the only way you're getting John Collins and without giving up your pick is to give up Harrison Barnes.
All right.
So while I'm not saying that, I mean, they're pretty close to a swap out. And so who's going to play small forward for this team? Whoever you draft. Like, again, there's not a play. Like, Keegan Murray can come in and he can play minutes, but he's not going to be the difference between you winning, you know.
Whoever you draft, I don't think it'll be a straight up trade for John Collins. We talked about it before. You may be getting Kevin Huerter, you know, in that deal. And I'm not saying Kevin Huerter is some kind of game changer, but I think we all like his game here. So you're adding it with Collins and Huerter and your draft pick. And I guess you got an opportunity to re-sign Dante. Plus, you still have another trade chip with Rashawn Holmes and a couple other expiring. There's other things that we can do before we get to the tank.
20.
I'm not saying that that's the Kings because they won't do it. That's the problem. But a normal team that it's in this situation where they have, you know, maybe 25% of what their roster should be, and they're looking at a number 4 pick, they draft the best player available and they figure out, and then they play for 2-3 years. They play for when that player is going to start to really turn it on. And that's where you get into next year's draft, which is an exceptional draft.
That's where you can't, like, there's nothing to compare the Kings to. Like, there's no team to compare the Kings to because the Kings have never, picked the direction. And it's now put us in a situation where De'Aaron Fox is going into the second year of his contract extension. And now you're trying to figure out, okay, we got the 4th pick. What direction are we going to go here? We all thought we knew what they would do when it was a 7th or an 8th pick. Now it's a 4th pick, and it's like, what do we do here?
It's a blessing and a curse. It is. Moving up to number 4. The only thing I'll tell you, like, if I'm looking at this and it was my team and I'm running it, I'm either taking, you know, again, Jaden Ivey. I got 2 options. Or I'm trading back twice. I'm trading once to get back into the range where I should have been picking and picking up a starter rotational player. And
James says, we don't deserve this. We're trading back to 7.
Well, no, because that gives you the opportunity to add one of those pieces that you're missing and still have your pick. And then I'm considering moving back again because I think I can do it again in this particular year. And, you know, like every year is different. You know, the situation again with Atlanta that we're hearing is that, like, Atlanta needs to clear some cap space. And there are people that they would like to get, but now they've got a front office that's probably up against it, you know, that got them to the Eastern Conference Finals and then took a gigantic step backwards. And now their salary cap situation is not good, and they've got to figure out a way around it. And so that's where, like, you go out there. I love hearing the report that Monty McNair is trying to do it without the number 4 pick in the draft. That's good. Yeah. I mean, again, if you it takes something to get something in the NBA. And in that situation, you know, your expiring contracts are going to get you something. And that is, you know, expiring contracts they used to be worth gold. In the right situation, they can be. But, you know, again, this is a moment where the Kings have to change the entire trajectory of their franchise in one offseason, or they need to be realistic. That's at least my opinion.
And me and Damian, we've kind of split on this whole situation because he told you, I'm stupid, you're stupid, James. This is all stupid. Just draft Jaden Ivey.
I didn't say stupid. I said I'm sick of you.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
There
well, you
goes
should
the
be
media.
sick of us.
There goes the media again. Putting words in his mouth.
Making stuff up.
That damn media.
Why are you disrespecting Bill Russell, Kenny?
Yeah.
But so that's how he feels. I think, and this is a pure hypothetical here, if the Wizards deal that we talked about a week ago is on the table with Kyle Kuzma, Denny, and you swap to the 10th pick, I do that. I make that move because I'm in the same arena as you, James, where you need some players. Even though I think they're a little closer than you think, you need some players. You pick up Kyle Kuzma, who would be a starter. You get Denny, who's a rotational guy. You still have your draft pick at 10. And then you still have Harrison Barnes, where you can go get another starter, whether that's John Collins or something like that. And I think that builds out your roster for this upcoming season more than just drafting, because that's your biggest asset right now is that number 4 pick.
Yeah, I mean, I get that move. Like again, the Kuzma thing is always going to stand out because his contract, and I just don't think he thinks he's Hollywood. I don't think he's going to think it's okay to go to Sacramento and just stick around. So, I mean, I would counter with, if I'm going to do that move or I'm going to think about that move, I would prefer to move back one spot with Detroit, pick up one of their starting forwards, and then you're at number 5 and you have a better position. You're still good in the draft. You can take a Keegan Murray there, and at least now 2 years from now you've got 2 starting level forwards.
Is that 3 and 4 in your position? I mean, in this scenario you're creating, that's your 3 and your 4?
Yeah.
Jeremy Grant, I assume, is the trade back, and then you draft.
Yeah. So Jeremy, well, that, and I think Detroit would be more likely to trade Jeremy Grant in that situation, just because he's 28 going on 29 and he wants big money, and he's already owed $21 million next year, where Bay fits their player arcs. He's 23 years old. He's under contract, under team control for another 6 years, pretty much. It's just different. I think that they would be more likely. And I think Jeremy Grant's a slightly better player, but I think he fits really well. He can play the small forward. He can play the power forward. He also blocks shots. He's a 3-and-D guy, all that stuff. He is a really good fit. Now, whether Detroit wants to make that move or not, I think it really depends on whether they believe that the Kings are going to find a taker outside of them for the number 4 spot. Because they would like Ivy, of course. There's a bunch of teams that would like Ivy. But again, that's not horrible. And then you can go out and try to take Harrison Barnes and go move him in a deal for a guy like John Collins. And then, look, just because you have 2 forwards doesn't mean that you don't go get another one. If you had, again, Jeremy Grant and you drafted Keegan Murray at number 5, you certainly would still want to go out and get a guy like John Collins, because then, you're going to have a 3-forward rotation that's actually legitimate in the NBA. Not what you've run out there for the last couple of years, where, to be honest, it's just not good enough.
And of course, part of this thinking is Harrison will be gone sooner, rather at some point relatively soon. Harrison Barnes probably won't be here.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't trade Harrison unless you're getting a younger version or something that works in the same function as Harrison Barnes.
But even at that, you're probably not operating. Even if he is here, you're probably not operating with the thought he's here next year. You have to start putting in plans for when Harrison Barnes isn't a member of the Sacramento Kings, unless you believe you can re-sign him or you have the desire to re-sign him.
Of course. I mean, with Harrison, you're looking at it, either you're going to trade him now or you're going to trade him at the deadline, because you should know right now, they already have a good idea whether they could sign him to an extension or not. And if the answer is no, they can't sign him to an extension, then he needs to be on the block, either now at the draft so you can accumulate more assets right now, or at the trade deadline when, again, we're at that situation where what happens if you're good, what happens if you're in playoff contention and you don't have clearance to trade Harrison Barnes at the deadline, and then you lose him next offseason for nothing, which, the Kings have done quite a few times where they didn't make the right move in that situation. We'll
come back. We'll talk more about Harrison Barnes, and I want to ask James more about this dinner that allegedly happened and what James makes of that. That's all coming up here. James is going to change hats. He's going to put on the fedora. He'll be happy when we return here on ESPN 1320. I love that the fedora signals happy ham. That's the best thing in the world.
Yeah, I mean, maybe I'm being too realistic, but like I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I mean, like this team is too far away.
I need to get up for 1 second, guys. Sorry.
So,
yeah, just a reminder to everybody out there trying to help you out here. About to get hot this week. Energy Upgrade California reminds you, power down between 4 and 9. Try to not to use any electronics or appliances between 4 and 9. That'll allow you to do whatever you need to do later on in the day. Help you with your energy bill and keeping California golden.
521 people in here. Make sure you're doing do the thumbs up thing.
Oh yeah, hit that thumbs up, man. Hit the thumbs up. Hit it.
Yep. Yeah, like I mean, this is where we're at, man. We're at the final stages of this thing, and like I just don't see, like, I think that there's plenty of potential for upside here. Like I think that they can build this thing out. That's, maybe I need to switch hats to say that. But like I actually have faith that they can do this. I'm not just saying that like you're horrible and, just go away. But I am saying that you need to make a decision.
Yeah, I would move back. Like if the Wizards deal was there, I'd do that. The
There
Knicks
you
would
go.
make a deal.
I'll put the fedora on for you.
There we go. Happy ham.
All right, people.
There we go.
We'll get through this. Yeah.
Well, everyone, I'll give you my trauma theory when we return.
Well, man, all our guys, Deuce Mason tapping in, and me and Deuce were talking last week about Mathurin, and we like Mathurin. Like, not maybe I know they probably wouldn't draft him at 4, but if it was a move back scenario, and you were able to add some kind of vet piece and find a way to get Mathurin,
Hey,
Mathurin,
I really, really like Mathurin.
I like that dude. That guy can go.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think he's going to be a stud. Like, I think he's safer than like AJ Griffin. Yeah. No, I'm not upset at all about Monty going to Woj. No, but if you're going to go talk through a bullhorn, you better have something more than move along, nothing to see here. Like if that's where you're going, like you set this thing up.
By the way, for the people asking, you once again have spoken into the universe. Drake Yu gonna be here on draft day.
Let's go.
Figure out the times and everything. Drake Yu gonna pull up.
Oh, I like Drake. He's a good dude.
Right. James, you want to do anything on draft day? I was going to talk about that with you after the show.
Yeah, I'll be around. I'll be down at Golden One, but like you guys are going to be on during the day, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll find a spot there.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, and then we'll do our normal Friday stuff.
Yeah. Big ups to our guard Kendra as well, and the Kings for their Juneteenth celebration yesterday. Big ups.
KMB.
Yeah. Moves being made out there. I like that.
Indeed. They got interesting. Mitchell and Ness 75th anniversary gold hardwood classic swingman jerseys. This Rodman jersey's pink. We're coming back, guys. Hang on. live on the Odyssey app, live on twitch.tv/ESPN1320, live on youtube.com/ESPN1320, live on Facebook as well. We welcome in over 500 people watching the show right now, and countless others listening on the Odyssey app and on 1320 AM. For those that aren't watching, we're happy to let you know that James Ham has taken off the baseball hat and donned the fedora. We dub this Happy Ham. So maybe we'll shed his realistic view of the Sacramento Kings and put on his happy hat and maybe be a little more irrational, like the rest of us, like me. When I say just draft Jaden Ivey and that fixes everything.
Yeah, that's some next level purple flavored Kool-Aid.
Oh my!
I think this is all. I had this theory I presented to Kenny and everyone kind enough to listen earlier, that I think all of this. This is all based out of trauma. Like part of my thing with Jaden Ivey is that I'm hearing so many people who I trust say great things about Jaden Ivey, and while I believe Keegan Murray is a really good ball player too, you start to get those vibes of, oh man, we passed on Luka Doncic, and then you start to think of, and I'm not saying that Jaden Ivey is Luka Doncic at all, but like you start thinking about missing on Dame Lillard, and you missed on Klay Thompson, and you missed on Steph Curry, and you missed on this player, and you missed on that player. And these are all players that you realistically had chances to draft. And then you just sink in here and like you're going to trade it away for John Collins. And then this Jaden Ivey kid is going to go off to be a 25-point per game scorer. He's going to be the next Steph Curry, or he's going to be the next Dame Lillard, or he's going to be this and be that. And it's all rooted, James, in trauma.
Okay. Yeah, I can agree with a lot of that. I mean, this team is missed so often that it's like staggering. And, they've tried to build through the draft for, 15, 16 years, and it hasn't worked. Now, that doesn't mean you quit trying to build through the draft, but there comes a point where your players reach a specific age where you have to give them immediate help and you have to build something around them, or you have to acknowledge that they really aren't the long-term answer and that you need to start over and they might be placeholders while you start building something else. And so, look, I think, like, I've been very clear to you guys what I would do. I would trade down multiple times if possible. Actually, I was on a pod today with somebody, and they called it the trade trickle down trade. I thought it was ingenious, but for me, like, look, I think that there's possibilities to do this. You talk about speaking things into existence, but it sure does feel like the Kings have done a little bit of that over the last couple of days. They're trying to speak things into existence. They're trying to build value at the 4 pick. They're trying to get involved in the John Collins sweepstakes without giving up the number 4 pick. Like, look, they know where they're at. I don't think I'm saying anything that they don't understand. They know how many NBA players are on that roster, how many true NBA starting or rotational players are on that roster. And if they don't, then then you're listening to somebody who doesn't know basketball that well. Like, that's just not who this team is. They're too far away. So I think they can do it. I think they do have the ammunition between expiring contracts, between guys like Rashawn Holmes and Harrison Barnes, things like the 4th pick, but also 2023, 2024, 2025 first-round picks. Like, you have the ammunition to do something here. But if you're going to talk about playoffs, you have to actually do those things.
Right. You
got to walk the walk. You can't just sit here and talk the talk. And you can't just sit here and, like, what you guys, like someone says, like, I'm upset because they say things to Woj. No. If you're going to go talk to the bullhorn and have him put that out there everywhere, then you have to go do it. Like, you can't just have it one way. Like, this team, if this team is going to be a playoff team, they have to be so aggressive, and they've got to be on top of it, and they've got to hit again and again. Maybe they don't have to hit 4 times in a row, but they need to make massive moves early on the draft, massive moves day one of free agency, but then some really solid additions late in free agency that make sense. A Martin twin or something like that. There are a lot of things that they can do here to build this thing out the right way, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with everything you said in that aspect right there, James. It's time to make a move for now. Like I know we talked about it last week where they had the year where they went out and got Rondo and Bellinelli and all that other stuff, and that didn't really work. Those were free agent signings. You talk about when they went and got George Hill, Vince Carter, Zebo, all that other stuff. Those are free agent signings. In the draft, they continuously draft the players. Now, just because they've gotten it wrong for the most part over the last 15 years or so doesn't mean that you don't draft now. I'm not saying that. But they've never had a guy like DeMarcus Cousins, like De'Aaron Fox now with Sabonis, and said, you know what? We're going to use this draft pick to go and get you an impact player right now to help you out. And that's what I think they have the ability to do here at 4. Hopefully, like you talked about, if they can do that John Collins deal or something like that without using 4, that'd be great. That'd be great. But I just look at it and I feel like their best opportunity may be using that number 4 pick to go and getting you a starter and getting Fox and Sabonis, an established guy around them to help go after this thing. If you really gonna go after it, like you said, go after it for real.
Yeah, I mean, like, look, let's go back to was it 2015, 16 when they drafted Willie Cauley-Stein at what, number 6 or number 7?
7.
7. Okay, so what if you would have used that to go get yourself a legitimate NBA starter to go with the guys that you already had, the Rudy Gays, the DeMarcus Cousins. They had a decent squad. What if you would have used it then? What if instead of drafting Yorgos Papagiannis at number 13, you would have used the 9 pick that you had that draft that you traded and go out and do something more dramatic to go get a player? And I'm not saying do it every time. I'm not. And I get it. The Kings, in a perfect world, they wouldn't be up at the number 4 pick for a long time, right? But even the Golden State Warriors have found their way up high in the draft. I mean, you can actually make trades and get picks and do things that actually improve your roster outside of like losing 50-something games a year.
Mm-hmm.
So there are other ways to get up into the draft and do that stuff. So I just think, like, look, there's not a perfect solution here. If there was, like, we would just do like the 2K trades and just move guys all over the place. Like, this is going to be complex. It's not going to be easy, but you can't just dip a toe in and not go all the way in. Either you're going to be a team that's priming to get better in a couple of years, and that means you draft Ivy, or you're a team that wants to be better now. And I don't think that there's a middle there, because I just don't, like, again, Ivy's going to take 2 years before he starts to really be who he's going to be. And at that point, he could be something that doesn't make sense to your franchise at all, because you already have a player like him, and then you make moves then. So I get that. And I'm always an advocate of, like, choose the best player, but you don't have to choose the best player if there are other options out there, like moving around, moving down, moving sideways, like doing a bunch of different things, which I think is where this team really should be looking.
How do you move sideways in the draft?
Yeah,
I was just kidding.
Well, I would say this. Moving sideways to me is moving down one spot, picking up a really good player, and sort of cushioning the blow of what that number 1 player could be. So you're getting a really good player, and then you're drafting a player that probably isn't of the same, like, potential of the other player. But, again, if you walked out of the draft with either Jaden Ivey or Jeremy Grant and Keegan Murray, like, that to me is kind of sideways. Like, okay. Because I don't think that Ivy can be a lot of things, but is he going to be a John Morant? I don't think so. Is he going to be, Russell Westbrook?
Dwayne Wade?
I don't know. I don't think so. But I think he can be a really good player with some deficiencies. Like, he's not a perfect prospect by any means. And there's all kinds of problems on the defensive end that, people don't want to talk about. And there's all kinds of problems with, like, the mid-range game. And there's all kinds of problems with his passing ability. Like,
oh, okay. All right.
No, but there are a lot of things that have to get cleaned up, right? So.
This stuff bothers me. Willie Cauley-Stein was, in fact, taken 6th. In the
sixth.
I thought it was
It was taken 7th. James had that. Devin Booker was taken 13th. There's that. And there are other names that you can point to, but Devin Booker is the one who stands out the most. I couldn't get Kenny to commit on this, Hammer, so I'll see if I can get you to commit. This question comes from Chris on Facebook Live, like the ESPN 1320 page. What if Jaden Ivey isn't picked? What if Jaden Ivey is picked before number 4? So that means one of the traditional big 3 have fallen. What do you do there?
That means a lot of things. Number one, you're now all of a sudden, this is the reason why you don't trade the pick today, right? So the Kings haven't already made a trade because you want to wait and see who's there at the pick. So for some weird reason, Chet, Jabari, Paolo falls to number 3. It's pretty simple. You can still go the route of trading down, but now you're dealing with a different group of people that you're trading with, because a specific group of teams are in love with Jaden Ivey, right? But a team like, let's say, Detroit might not be in love with Paolo Banchero in the same way they were in love with Jaden Ivey. So now, like, the calculus changes. Paolo Banchero is a player that helps you a whole lot more in year 1 than any other player probably in this draft. Like, if I were a betting man, I'd say that Paolo Banchero is probably going to win the Rookie of the Year. He's probably the most NBA-ready player to step on the court, and boom, he's going to produce. Now, am I saying he's going to be the best player in this draft? I'm not saying that. But because I don't know if his ceiling is as high as some of the others, and I also don't know if his style of play equates to winning as much as some of the others. But I think it's an interesting question. That's why you don't trade until your number is called.
Yeah.
Another thing that I sit up here and I think about is this almost a Damian Barling moment here, where he just had he's walking the dog and he's like, "Come on, what are we doing? Just draft Jaden Ivey." What are we doing here? The streak needs to end. They need to make the playoffs next year. That should be what the goal is. It's cute and it's adorable. It's a good idea to say we're going to work through the draft and we're going to get this guy, this 19-year-old, and we're doing it the right way through the draft. Man, please, we're talking 21 years without being in the playoffs at that point. Like, hey, Monty McNair, Vivek Ranadive, you need to be doing everything you can to end this streak. I said what I said at the end of the season, and I don't feel any differently. That has to end. And I know our guy, Brendan Nunez, doesn't want us to make the playoffs in 1 year and then go back into the lottery. That's fine. I'll deal with that when I get to that. But what I don't want is to be in the lottery for the next 5 years. Like, what are we doing? Like, we need to be making the playoffs.
I need you to say this specifically. You're out on Paolo Banchero, too.
If you're telling me the Kings can trade and get a better team to make the playoffs next year, that's absolutely do that.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure. I just wanted to make sure that this was a still share moment. That's fine. Because that was your guy during the college basketball season. And now you're out. James, get here. It took 3 hours, but James, I finally got Kenny to commit to Paolo Banchero.
But if you
throw him right through the barbershop window.
If you can get Paolo and still make a trade for a veteran, then you still do that. Like I said, whatever it is, whether it's just even with Ivy, you don't trade for, and you're able to trade for John Collins. But make no bones about it. I say, and I don't have no problem with any mandate or anything else like that. The bottom line should be the streak needs to end next year. We ain't playing for 2-3 years down the road. Take care of business now.
I agree, and I'll even throw this into. Look, Jaden Ivey could be a very good basketball player, but there is always always someone who is not nearly as good as we think they're going to be. There, in every single draft, there's a Derek Williams. There is a Jabari Parker. There is Michael Beasley. There's these are Dragan Bender taken in the top 4, right? There's
Michael Beasley was good. I think
Dion Waiters.
Other issue.
No, well, he did have some other issues, but he never made it.
Yeah.
But like Hashim Thabit, Wesley Johnson. Wasn't Wesley Johnson taking the pick ahead of DeMarcus Cousins?
Yeah.
Derek Favors. Like, what I'm saying is that just because we think we know what Ivy could be, like, we know who John Collins is. We know who Jeremy Grant is.
But do we know who Sacramento John Collins is? Do we know who Sacramento I feel like Jeremy Grant might be a little bit different.
But like a 24-year-old shouldn't regress massively by getting traded to a new team when he's got 4 more years left on his contract. I mean, there's a possibility, but I would rather bank on the possibility that he will at least be his average as an NBA player when he gets to Sacramento at 24 years old. I mean, there's always a possibility the guy busts. But again, my point is, like, we don't know what these guys are at all. Like, and if we compared this draft, you ask any of the long-term draft experts, they will tell you that this draft does not measure up, that tier 1 in this draft is tier 2 or tier 3 in most drafts. Like, we have to be realistic about what these guys are. They are prospects. And you are basically out there with a gold mining pan trying to find gold. And a lot of times you come up with a whole bunch of nothing. And it is what it is. So, like, again, if I can get someone, and I'm not saying do this every time. I'm saying in this situation, it might behoove you to be aggressive on the trade front, to move around, to do things differently, and see if you can come up with something, especially with the age arc of your 2 main pieces.
Get better, make the playoffs, man. Make the playoffs. Like we talking about coming full circle. I've come full circle to the end of the season. Like you can't be out there thinking it's okay to be not in the playoffs for 20 straight seasons. Like you can't sit there and think that, well, we take this guy and we're building it the right way. We're building it the right way. No, you're not. Okay, no, you're not. You're not building it the right way. You're just building more of a lavish. You think agents don't want the player to come in here now when it's at 16? Think about when it's at 20, and you're on your third general manager and another head coach, and you didn't ran Fox and Sabonis out of here. Get that stink off of you now, and I have no problem, zero problem. If that is what's being said in the front office, we have no proof to say that that's what's being said. But if they did, people talk about that like that's such a bad thing. I agree with it 100%. Like, this team should be doing whatever they need to do with a 24-year-old De'Aaron Fox, 24, 25-year-old Sabonis to be making the playoffs next year. Absolutely.
5 years ago,
down the road for
5 years ago, De'Aaron Fox was the 5th pick in the draft. The 4th pick was Josh Jackson, who the Kings will not extend a qualifying offer to make him a restricted free agent. I don't even think that's possible. Like, he's an unrestricted free agent this offseason. Like, you just don't know. You just don't know. And so I kind of am at the point where if you know what you're getting, and you know what's at stake, here in Sacramento, you know that your building's emptied out. You know, you got to get excitement in the building. You got to get people coming back in the doors. You got to try to win your fan base back over. I don't blame them for pushing for the playoffs. But again, my point today wasn't like to flame them. My point is that if you're going to do that, you go all in. This is not a halfway moment. You either dive in or you just do what most people would do in this situation and start building through the draft.
But you lose Fox and Sabonis in the process. That's the other part. You're going to lose those two.
You lose them 2 years, you lose them 3 years, whatever it is, you lose them. That's the dynamic of the NBA. You only get to play so many years. You only get to keep players under contract for so many years. At some point, the team falls apart. At some point, you trade Doug Christie for Coutinho Mobley. You know, it's
we
harsh.
got the last laugh because we got Doug back.